Now you have joined, Mr. Karthik.
Yes, sir, I've joined.
Yes. Now you are able to see, right? Even I am sharing my screen also. 1 second.
Okay, sir.
Now is it visible?
Still
Or it's CAS 3, Cost Accounting Standard 3. Hello?
I can't see the screen. Sir, I can hear you, but I can't see the screen.
So I have shared the screen. No? 1 second.
Actually, sir, first time I'm using Skype.
Yeah. I think now you are able to see.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Other two are able to see, but your voice is visible, audible.
Yes, sir.
1 second. So nothing is visible right now. Already screen sharing is going on.
Sir.
Karthik, not able to see. For today, please listen. Actually, otherwise, what we can do tomorrow, we'll see. Do you have any idea about what is overheads, Karthik? So I am discussing the cost accounting subject, in which the cost is the total of accumulation of material, direct labor, direct expense, prime cost plus overheads is the total cost. Prime cost plus overheads is the prime cost. So prime cost plus overheads is the total cost. And overheads refers to expenses which are not directly traceable to a particular cost object or cost center. So expenses are two types, basically direct expenses and indirect expenses. Direct expenses are discussed in CAS 10, Cost Accounting Standard 10, in the previous class. So expenses which are directly traceable or identifiable to a particular cost object or cost center are called direct expenses. Say, for example, uh, royalty paid for production, molds and jigs used for a particular product, or engineering designs which are exclusively used for a particular product, or rent paid for a machinery and equipment used for manufacture of a particular product. So these are all direct expenses. Indirect expenses are those expenses which are not traceable to a particular product or particular cost object. So these are expenses incurred in common. So therefore, these are to be apportioned or distributed on some suitable basis. So what is the basis depends upon the nature of expense, and we will see those bases and methods of distribution and then absorption. So an overhead is the amount which is not identified with any product. So overheads are also classified functionally: factory overheads, office overheads, selling and distribution overheads, R&D, research and development overheads. An overhead is the amount which is not identified with any product. The name overhead might have come due to the reason of over and above the normal heads of expenditure. So it is the aggregate of indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expenditure. Direct material is forming part of the final product. It is traceable into the product. For example, if you take a biscuit, wheat flour, sugar, milk, colors, preservatives, cream, etc., all are identifiable with the product and traceable into the product. They are direct material. Indirect materials are those materials which are not forming part of the final product, but still they are used in manufacture of a product to facilitate for smooth production. Certain materials like lubricants, oils, coolants, and cotton waste, these are all used in maintenance of machines to facilitate the production smoothly. So these are not forming part of final product, so they are called indirect material. Similarly, indirect labor, when you come to direct labor, it is a remuneration paid to the workers in the factory who are working inside the factory on machines, who are responsible for converting raw materials into finished goods, and it is traceable into the product. So it is forming part of prime cost, whereas indirect labor or indirect wages is the remuneration paid to the workers who are working outside the manufacturing process. For example, they are working as sweepers in or cleaning work, or wages paid for watch and ward, and wages paid to the cook in the canteen. So these are all indirect wages or indirect labor. And indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenditure all together we say overheads. The generic term used to denote indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses is overhead. Thus, overheads forms a class of cost that cannot be allocated or absorbed, but can only be apportioned to the cost units. So they cannot be allocated. So allocated means expenses, if they are directly attributable to a particular product, they are allocated to the product. So overheads forms a class of cost that cannot be allocated. So they are not related to one particular cost object. So they can be apportioned to the cost units, means they are distributed to the cost units. In earlier days, overheads were not given much importance because the prime cost constitutes 50 to 80% of the total cost. However, with the modern trend towards the mechanization, automation, and mass production, overhead costs have grown considerably in size, and in many undertakings, the proportion of overhead costs to the total costs of the products is appreciably high. So because of the automatic production, because of automation, and because of size of the organization, and because of mass production, means goods are manufactured in large scale, so therefore overheads are incurred. So overhead size of the overheads also increases. So therefore, overheads, high overheads do not indicate inefficiency if the increase in overheads is due to the following likely causes. So we can't say that overheads because overheads are increasing. So increasing overheads are as a result of inefficiency. So it doesn't mean that increase in overheads need not be due to inefficiency if it is due to the following causes. Improved methods of managerial control like accountancy, production control, work study, cost and management accountancy, etc. in the process of reducing the costs of other elements like direct material, direct labor, and overhead costs are likely to increase. So when management is trying to reduce the cost of direct material, direct labor, and the overhead costs are likely to increase, and the improved methods of managerial control like accountancy, production control. So various service or support departments are created. So overheads will be increased. Large scale production or mass production will naturally cause a higher amount of overhead. Use of costly machines and equipments increases the amount of depreciation, maintenance expenditure, and similar other items of overhead costs. So there will be a difference if you are using a machine for of 2 lakhs and a machine of 10 lakhs. Definitely there will be a depreciation amount will be higher side. Depreciation is a factory expense or factory overhead. So use of costly machines will push up the overhead, factory overhead. So less human efforts are necessary with automatic machines. A major portion of the cost is allocated direct to the machines, thus increasing the machine overhead cost. Because of automatic machines will reduce the manpower requirements. So, but they will spend more expense. So first expenses are identified with machines, and after that they are applied to cost up. Increased efficiency and productivity of labor has the effect of pushing up the overhead to direct labor ratio. Because when labor efficiency is increasing, so they will take less time in manufacturing process, and other expenses will increase. According to CIMA, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants UK, overhead costs are defined as the total cost of indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. So thus all indirect costs like indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses are called overheads. Examples of overhead expenses are rent, taxes, depreciation, maintenance, repair, supervision, selling and distribution expenses. So all these things we have read already as part of the cost sheet. And marketing expenses, factory lighting, printing and stationery, etc. As per TS3, overheads are defined as follows. Overheads comprise costs of indirect material, indirect labor, indirect employee, and indirect expenses, which are not identifiable or allocable to the cost object in an economically feasible manner. The overheads are not identifiable or allocable to a cost object in an economically feasible manner. But whereas direct material, direct labor, direct expenses are allocable or identifiable with a particular cost object. So overhead accounting, the ultimate aim of the overhead accounting is to absorb them into the product units produced by the firm. Absorption of overhead means changing each unit of a product with an equitable share of overhead expenses. In other words, as overheads are all indirect costs, it becomes difficult to charge them to the expenses. In other words, as overheads are all indirect costs, it becomes difficult to charge them to the product units because product overheads are not traceable to particular product units. So, for example, in a factory, product A, B, C are manufactured, and factory rent is paid. So, entire factory rent we cannot take it to a particular product, say A. So in factory, there are two types of departments, production departments and service departments, also known as support departments. The rent is paid for the factory as a whole. That rent belongs to first, we have to distribute to the production as well as service departments. So apportionment or distribution of overheads to both production and service departments is called primary apportionment, and apportionment of reapportionment of service department overheads to the production departments is called as secondary distribution. I've already sent the notes by WhatsApp, and from that you can see the methods what I'm going to explain. I'll be explaining in that order only. So the important steps involved in overhead accounting are as follows. First, overheads are to be collected, then classified and codified, and codification of overheads, allocation, apportionment and reapportionment of overheads, then absorption of overheads. As mentioned above, the ultimate of overhead cost accounting is absorption. So that is point number C in the product units. Ultimately, overheads are included. Absorption means inclusion of overheads into the total cost. So in the product units, this is extremely important, as accurate absorption will help in arriving at the accurate cost of production. So overheads are indirect costs, and hence and hence there are numerous difficulties in charging the overheads to the product units. So study of overheads can be better understood from following diagram. Overheads are first collected, then apportioned, then classified, then apportionment and classification, then absorption or recovery. So overheads are classified by nature as rent, depreciation, or such other expenses. Overheads classification by function: manufacturing overheads, office and administration overheads, selling and distribution overheads. Element-wise classification: indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. Classification of overheads by behavior of the expenses: fixed overheads, semi-variable overheads or semi-fixed overheads, and variable overheads. So the other things anyhow we are going to see. And collection of overheads, the document that is used: stores issue note or purchase voucher. Overhead cost is indirect material and nature is consumables. How they are identified? Then what is the nature of the overheads? They are given one by one. Manufacturing overheads or factory overheads, or the expenses incurred in the factory. So for manufacturing overheads, we're having different terminologies: factory overheads, manufacturing overheads, production overheads, or factory on cost or works on cost, factory burden, and manufacturing expenses. Factory, production, manufacturing, works, overheads, expenses, on cost. So 4 into 3, 12 combinations we can use. Factory overheads, factory expenses, factory on cost; manufacturing overheads, manufacturing expenses, manufacturing on cost; production overheads, production expenses, production on cost; works overheads, works expenses, and works on cost. So like this, we're having different terms which are all synonymous, means all are same in meaning. We can use them interchangeably. So whenever we are coming to office and administration overheads, we'll see. And so there are some indirect material which are being used in the factory. So classification of cost for manufacturing or factory or production overheads. Materials used are nuts and bolts, consumables, lubricants. Just now I said, no, cotton waste, cleaning materials, nails, threads. Indirect wages are labor. Salaries are wages paid to foremen, supervisors, inspectors, maintenance labor, idle time. Other expenses: factory expenses, factory lighting. So as part of cost sheet, we have already read. Factory manager salary, factory supervisor salary. So factory lighting, power, fuel, gas, water, steam, coal, oil, etc. used in the factory. Repairs, insurance, depreciation on factory, building and machines. So they are giving all these things. And overheads are categorized into three types on the basis of their behavior. So variable overheads, fixed overheads, and semi-variable overheads. So when variable overheads will move directly from origin, so variable overheads will vary or change with output. Higher the output, higher the overheads. So per unit overhead cost will remain same. For example, if overhead is rupees 2 per unit, for 1 unit it is 2 rupees, for 5 units it is 10 rupees, or for 100 units it is 200 rupees. Per unit it remains constant. And fixed overheads are fixed irrespective of the level of output. Even if 0 is the output, fixed overheads will remain constant. Fixed overhead line will be parallel to x-axis. Example, factory rent, insurance, salaries, etc. These are all based on time. And partly variable, partly fixed or semi-variable overheads. For example, supervision expenses. Supervisor salary is a partly variable, partly fixed or semi-variable overhead. And say up to 10,000 units of production, if one supervisor is sufficient with a salary of 20,000, and if the production exceeds 20,000, after that another supervisor is to be appointed without any compromise. Why? Because management, if it compromises for the supervisor salary, so the existing supervisor's time will not be sufficient and he will be overseeing the quality of the product. Ultimately, complaint cost. So that is a customer complaint will arise, and in handling the customer complaint cost, additional expense is to be incurred, and even goodwill of the business will be lost. So other factors are there. So there are different terms used. One is allocation, apportionment, and reapportionment of overheads. The allocation means if overheads are traceable to a particular cost object, they are taken directly to that particular cost object. So CMA defines cost allocation as the charging of discrete identifiable items of cost to cost centers or cost units. In simple words, complete distribution of an item of overhead to the departments or products on logical or equitable basis is called allocation. So completely overheads are taken to a particular cost object. Where a cost can be clearly identified with a cost center or cost unit, then it can be allocated to that particular cost center or unit alone. In other words, allocation is the process by which the cost items are charged directly to a particular cost unit or cost center. For example, electricity charges can be allocated to various departments if separate meters are installed. So because separate meter readings, so even if you could have observed, if you are having two separate portions for a house, two separate connections, service connections are taken for electricity, and so they are giving separate cords and separate meters are fixed. Based on the meter reading, expenses are taken and separately, so that electricity charges can be taken to a particular department. So it is directly identifiable with a particular department. If separate meters are not available, then costs of electricity are to be distributed on the basis of the floor area occupied by each department. So this is how lighting will be, lighting charges or electricity will be allocated. And similarly, depreciation of machinery can be allocated to various departments as the machines can be identified with respect to departments, and the salary of stores clerk can be allocated to the stores department alone. Why? Because stores clerk is working in the stores department. The entire expenses of the salary of the stores department can be traceable to a particular cost center, that is the stores department. So cost of coal used in boiler can be directly allocated to the boiler house division. So thus allocation is a direct process of identifying the overheads to the cost units or cost centers. So process of identifying, a direct process of identifying the overheads to a particular cost center is allocation. Apportionment is the distribution. So cost apportionment is the allotment of proportions of items to cost centers. Wherever possible, the overheads are to be allocated. However, if it is not possible to charge the overheads to a particular cost center or cost unit, they are to be apportioned to various departments. If allocation is not possible, then overheads are to be distributed to various cost centers. So on some suitable basis. So this process is called as apportionment of overheads. Say, for example, factory rent is distributed on the basis of the floor area occupied by each department. So material handling cost is distributed on the basis of the material requisitions or material handled in each department. Insurance on machines depends on the value of the machines. So because insurance premium, it is the expense will be given in a single amount that is to be distributed on the basis of the capital value of assets available in each department. So like this, there are some we are going to use some suitable basis. We can see here a factory has 3 departments: production departments P1, P2, P3, and support and service departments or support departments S1 and S2. The following overheads and other information are extracted from the books of the month of January 2016. So before that, I already shared with you by WhatsApp. By WhatsApp, I shared some notes to you. I will share it once. Karthik, are you able to see these notes?
Yes, sir.
Karthik? Karthik? I think Karthik already left. He is not there. Okay. You can see. First overhead. So for distribution of overheads, we are taking different basis. Floor area or volume of department, for example, rent and rates, depreciation of buildings, other building expenses, lighting and heating, fire precaution service, AC. AC means, of course, air conditioning systems. So these are all based on the floor area of each department, floor area or volume of the department. And legal expenses, personnel department expenses, group insurance scheme, canteen expenses, CSI contribution, supervision, fringe benefits, labor welfare expenses, timekeeping. These are all based on the number of workers or employees. Filing cost based on the number of items handled, typing cost based on the number of letters typed in each department, invoicing cost based on the number of invoices raised, correspondence based on the number of letters drafted, advertisement based on the sale value or physical units, credit control based on the number of orders. Then depreciation, value of assets, insurance, property value, warehousing, sales volume, then transport, weight or number of packages or distance carried. Then compensation to workers, holiday pay, ESI, PF contribution, fringe benefits, indirect wages, sundries, or means miscellaneous expenses based on the direct wages, general overheads or general expenses based on direct labor or direct wages or mission hours, repairs, maintenance, and insurance of plant and machinery, depreciation. These are all based on the capital value of the assets available in each department. So delivery expenses based on the weight, volume, ton miles, ton kilometers, audit fees based on the sales value or total cost in each department. And then some for technical estimates, power or steam consumption, internal transport or managerial salaries. These are all to be apportioned to various departments on the basis of the technical estimates. Lighting expenses based on the number of light points or floor area occupied by each department. So floor area is written in red ink. So fare it immediately. Any doubt you can clarify. So then electric power on the basis of horsepower of machines, HP, or number of hours or value of machines, or sometimes composite units. Both are given. Horsepower into number of hours we should multiply. Then material handling based on the weight of materials or volume of materials or value of materials. Crush based on the number of women employees. You know what is crush? CRECHE.
No, sir.
Crush means, you see, in the case of women employees with newborn babies, they will come to office along with babies to the workplace. And this is a baby care center. They will hand over the babies with the baby caretaker in the crush. CRECHE.
Okay, sir.
So based on the number of women employees, crush expenses are to be shared. So based on the number of women employees working in each department. Now we can see the illustration one. So overheads are first distributed between the production departments and service departments. We are having two types of apportionment: primary apportionment and secondary distribution or secondary apportionment. So first, we are distributing the overheads between production and service departments. You can see the expense: rent, repair, depreciation, lighting, supervision, fire insurance of our stock, ESA contribution, power, like this they have given. And and they have given other particulars like area and square feet, number of workers, wages, value of plant, stock value, horsepower of the plant, like this they have given. So what you have to do? So rent is to be distributed on the basis of the floor area. I've already read out the long list of expenses and the basis of apportionment. Okay, so and also we know that commonsensically that say rent for single bedroom apartment, double bedroom apartment, these are all differing, right? So rent is based on the floor area. So they have given 6,000 is the rent, and now you distribute it. So 400, 300, 270, 150, 80. So total comes to that 500, 800, 1,200 square feet. If you divide 6,000 with 1,200, it is 5 rupees. per square feet. So 400 into 5, 300 into 5, like this. In this ratio, you have to distribute. Repairs on the basis of the value of plant. Depreciation based on the value of the plant. Lighting on the basis of light points. If not given, it is floor area of the plant. For a floor area of each department. Fire insurance for stock based on the stock value or stock stored in each department. ESA contribution based on wages of the workers, power based on the horsepower of the plant. In that particular ratio, you should distribute. All expenses are indirect expenses for service departments. And so when you're adding, the total comes to 11,350, 8,505, 6,825. That and all, that mathematics and all, you know, no? So 9,000 is to be distributed on the basis of the number of workers available in each department. Okay. So you work out this. If any doubt is there, I will clarify in the next class, and we will go for the secondary distribution in the next class.
Okay, sir.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
అవును ఇప్పుడు నువ్వే